Well, good morning, Rochester. Good morning, First CD. Good morning to all the folks who drove today. Those poets are wrong. You can go home. You can go back. They're wrong. Just a huge thank you. Madam Chair, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for putting the values of the people of the First District as a priority and understanding that the incredible gift of this country and the blessings that it come with responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is being engaged in your government. And you also have, you have a constitutional right to address your government for redress of grievances. And I think we have a few grievances that we might have. But you didn't come here to complain. You came here to lift up and understand that each generation of Americans and each generation of Minnesotans and each generation of folks in southern Minnesota have a responsibility to lift up the things we care deeply about. And you came here, you love the country, you love freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom that comes with it. That is important. And now, I've been saying, I think it's very important. Everybody says they love freedom. But we need to be very clear here. If you truly love freedom, that means freedom for everyone. Because I'm going to help them out with this, that if you love freedom but want to repress others' rights, you're not talking about loving freedom. What you love is privilege, and that's very different. Very different. So, it's appropriate we're here. Some of you don't know, I've had a long time, the First Lady and I, it was the First Lady who recruited him, a young man, a graduate of John Marshall High School. Chris Smitter has been my chief of staff the entire time I've been doing this. And to check my Rochester bona fides, my incredible sister-in-law, Julie Walz, a member of the Rochester Public Schools. Because this is about family. When your last name is Walz, you take a lot of crap for that. So just so you know that you get it there. But we are incredibly grateful. I'm grateful for here. We're going to go through sets of questions. This is the most American thing you can do. This is the street corner, the soapbox. This is in the bar. This is in your workplaces. As we discuss how do we want our country to look together. And I just want to be very clear on this. I'm not here to personally criticize. These guys do this a lot. I mean, they want to sue me. Now they want to fight me. They want to, do whatever. I'm not here to personally criticize, but I am here to criticize that you need to do your damn job if you're going to have this. You need to You can be like, well, Governor, you have another job. They're worried what I'm doing on Saturdays. I just want to be clear. The folks up at the Capitol on the other side of the aisle need to worry what their members are doing on the weekend, not what I'm doing on the weekend. That's what I mean. But the reason I feel so passionate, and I know there's some of you out there, I stood on this very stage in September of 2009 to a packed house, many people who were unhappy because we were debating health care and the ACA, and I did a 3-hour town hall moderated by Republican Senator Dave Durenberger, and we stood on this stage and took all questions about the ACA. Now, the reason I had no problem doing this, and the reason that I am convinced they don't want to do these town halls, because I was proud to defend the right to expand health care. I was proud to stand on the ACA. I think it would be a lot harder for them to stand on this stage and defend cutting Medicaid, gutting our public schools, threatening Social Security. This space is available to face all of you. Your congressman needs to come here and tell us why it is okay for... public schools? Raise your hand. Let us know. Yeah. Yeah. And all of you who've had a child that has benefited from that, and those of us like Gwen and I who have benefited the incredible work that our teachers do with students who need a little extra help and who have an IEP and have the ability to get. That's right. So, this is not about protest. This is not about resistance. This is about democracy. You were elected under Article 1 of the Constitution. You appropriate the dollars as a member of Congress. Why in the hell would you give away your power and let an unelected official make it? Don't give it away. So for all of you, and I don't know, I said this, I heard it, and we're doing these because I heard it and people talking to me as we watch what's going on, and it's like a slow motion train wreck in front of us happening, and understanding it's our responsibility, and people were screaming, do something, and do something. And let's be very clear, people are doing something. You're showing up on this beautiful first day of fall spring number 3 to be here. You came, you could be doing stuff, but you came here because you know that's what you can do. And so for elected officials, you don't get to say, well, we're not in the majority, we really can't do anything. That's not good enough. That we have a platform, even if it is giving the microphone. Now, I'm going to say this. I feel pretty blessed because I get to work with Andy and Kim and Tina and Liz, who gets to so let's be very clear, they do things very well because let's just be very honest. We've got a firewall here in Minnesota that was put up by a bunch of good legislators who said, you know what? We think women should make their own health care decisions. We said, and they should have the courage to take the vote, we said we would rather vote and have our tax dollars feed our children than give tax cuts to the wealthiest among us. That's what we said. We said we're going to follow science when we make decisions about health. We follow science about the environment. Doing those things. Now, we're going to start taking some questions from all of you, but I want you to think about it. Make sure we leave time at the end. The teacher in me wants this. I want to hear from all of you, and I'm hearing this in Des Moines. I heard it in Omaha. We're hearing it all over. Where at the end of these, tell us what does it look like? What does it look like to see your thank you to the volunteers here who are helping. Grateful.
So my question was, how can I protect my son with a disability with the Department of Education closing?
Yeah. And Gabby, Wynn and I are asking the same question, the very same question, very same issue. Our son, how do we pick? Which, by the way, I am incredibly proud of, and I'm grateful to all of the teachers who have done things. If all goes well, over the next 8 weeks, he will graduate from high school here. So, look, let's be clear. This has been a goal of a slim section of America to defund public education for a very long time and to shift that money over. They don't believe in it. Now, one is, I think they can save money on that, which we know is ridiculous because every dollar we spend on early childhood gets us $12 back. Every dollar we make sure a student's self-sufficient, we get back 12-fold in many cases. But I said this, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, although they're making me be one, that I do think, and Donald Trump has said it, I think it challenges them when we're critical thinkers. I think it challenges them when we think for ourselves. I think it challenges them when we have to face problems. Because look, we're living in a world right now, they cut the Department of Education, and we have a measles outbreak, just by the way. We have more people with measles than violent criminals than they deported, just so you know what the focus is of what's happening. So safety comes in a lot of ways. This issue around safety and education, people who know education, you know that education is local. We've got school board members, I'm sure, that are here, folks that have been engaged in this. We know that curriculum is the state and local level. Teacher standards are state and local level. Teacher staffings are things that you negotiate together. Those are all very local. So people who don't know this, we've done a poor job of telling them, people who care about education, care about the great American contribution, public education, which is the envy of the world. We haven't told them what the Department of Education does. The Department of Education makes sure that as those local decisions are being made, that we go back to how we started this. Freedom for every child to get a quality education. Look, before the Department of Education, we needed state troopers to escort Ruby Bridges or the folks in Little Rock to get into the school because the locals said, well, this child's not going to go, and we kind of know why. The same thing is happening now. I heard Ohio legislators say these kids are too expensive to educate who have special needs. Look, I appreciate them saying the quiet part out loud, that they said it and they know that, but I don't believe that's where the American heart is. So I would tell you this, we are struggling and trying to figure it out. Our payments from the federal government have stopped and started numerous times during this chaotic period. We pay more. We're one of the states that we pay far more into the federal government than the state of Minnesota gets back. We're paying. And look, I'm more than happy to help other states if they're putting that money into education. I'm not interested in giving our tax dollars to states like Iowa who then take it and give vouchers and cut under public education. That's not right. So, thanks to Andy and Kim and Tina and Liz, Minnesota put a historic amount of money into education and especially focused to make sure that local school districts would have the resources necessary. But with that being said, if the federal government takes away that right, and again, they moved student loans, I guess, over to SBA and all of this, which many of us are very confused where it's going. And so what I would say to each and every one of you, Minnesota will do our very best to firewall this thing. I will do the very best to make sure that we're protecting and we will follow the law. But I will tell you this, the congressman from this district needs to stand in front of you and tell you he will protect those special ed dollars. So it's not super comforting, but the reality of this is not a drill, folks. It is now happening. Now, here's the good news. And again, thank God we're in Minnesota, and I have one of the best relationships with the Attorney General, who is suing them to make sure that that doesn't happen. Attorney General Ellison. We're in court because, look, you all know it. What he did in that executive order he signed in front of a fake damn classroom. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of them. Go find one and go into one if you think you're going to cut the money. Go into one. So they create this, but he does not have the authority to get rid of what was done by Congress to put into place. So he can't do it. Next. All right.
Our next question comes from Jennifer Smith from Dundas regarding Elon Musk. Jennifer, are you here?
I've been to Dundas a lot, to that dang soccer dome. You know, so.
I just wanted to know, what can we possibly do about Elon Musk? Because it's not right.
It is not right. Look, I have been at it with this guy, and I just want to be clear. All of you know me, and it's I own this or whatever. And I told the folks last fall when I was on the 90-day Eras tour there that this was part of it. That I don't use a teleprompter, I don't speak from notes, and I try and speak from the experiences I've had with other people on this. And this guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy. And but I have to be careful about being a smartass. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was, they're all mad, and I said something I didn't probably shouldn't have about a company. He is agreed. So I make the case. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing, but they don't care the disrespect they have shown to employees at the Minneapolis VA who care for our veterans, and they fire them. They don't care. So yes. So here, all of us, we will have the conversation about efficiency in government and about doing that. But none of us believe for a second they're thinking about this. Oh, we fired everybody that's dealing with Ebola. And then he went into the Oval Office wearing a hat. I don't ever want to hear anybody talk about decorum and respect or that. Wearing a hat, coming in there, richest man in the world. Again, this maybe is just me. If I'm the richest man in the world, I'm like out on the streets handing out the money. It'd be fun as hell just to help people out. Go help people out. Not this guy. Not this guy. And the idea that he can come in and make these decisions, the idea that there's any thought behind this, they fire him, they bring him back. H5N1, they cut that for bird flu. They're telling us now, inappropriately, that you can't catch that through animal transmissions. Of course you can. Those things they're going to happen. With that being said, here's how I believe we do this. This is the way it always is. We make sure that the public understands how truly unpopular this guy is. He is. He's super unpopular. And we make it a liability for Trump, because here's the thing. Donald Trump's loyalty to those around him lasts as long as they're useful to him. The minute they're no longer useful, gone. So I think the pressure is on this, because you're seeing it. People who voted for Donald Trump, they're even saying, some of them, not enough, some of them are even saying, well, I didn't vote for Elon Musk. I didn't vote for him to do this. And I think this, again, there's two conversations here. What they're doing, how we fight back. And then there's the conversation that, look, I'm at the center of and own it. How in the hell did we lose to these people with these ideas? What happened? What happened that they sided with the billionaire and the hedge fund manager over the county attorney and the public school teacher? They chose that choice, and why is that? And I think we have to be more forceful. We have to be more forceful about what we're going to do, because I have been saying this with a guy like Musk as they're flirting around the edges. Somebody in here is going to stand up and talk about health care. And can we just all agree on this, that health care, and I say it every time, health care is a human right. We are going to do it. Health care has to be universal. All right. But how did we as Democrats allow health care to be dependent on a 12-hour period in November every 4 years of who wins the election, whether you keep it or not? And so I think the antidote to Elon Musk is hold him accountable, make him super unpopular, but I think there's a separate track on here showing these people that instead of cutting those people at the VA, here's what we're going to do with the VA. Instead of cutting our schools, here's what we're going to do with the schools. And then actually follow through, because there's a lot of young people here. My heart breaks for this. The folks who were self-aware enough in this room, who their first real thing was the big meltdown in the housing bubble, and then the rise of Tea Party and Trump, and then COVID-19, and then, oh, this is over, and now it's back again. Let's all agree in this room that it's a hell of a lot easier to be a kid when they were my age than it is right now for these people to the past. Hell of a lot. So make him unpopular, fight back. You got it. Oh, I did not mention, some of you know this, during the COVID pandemic, and thank to everyone in here. Folks involved in healthcare, or any of our healthcare systems here in Rochester, could you raise your hands too? All right, thank you. One thing I am most proud of is the state of Minnesota is one of the states that had the lowest death rates. That's because we listened to the experts who are here. And nobody wants to remember this, the 5th year anniversary. My team says, don't ever talk about COVID. People hate it. Well, no shit, I hate it. It's terrible. But we did it, and we came through hard stuff together. And I said this, I became dear friends over about a 9-month period where every single day we were trying to put out the best information. But we wanted to convey that to all Minnesotans. And the way we did that to the deaf, hard of hearing, was through Nick, who did this. So great.
All right, our next question comes from Heather Adamson Dillon from Rochester regarding veterans. Are you here, Heather?
See her? Somebody else want to ask a veteran question? Yeah, go ahead. Yay. Yeah.
What are you going to do to defend mine as a specialist? My brother's is a corporal. My dad's is a corporal.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to defend us, Governor?
Yeah, thank you. And Specialist is right. The issue is we got into America on this, that you think it's okay to say thank you for your service and then crap on them on their benefits or not deliver. That's the thing. So at the VA, and just so you know what's happening here, and the real danger at the VA is they've tried this. They tried it when I was a ranking member on the House VA. They want to privatize the VA. They want to privatize the VA because it serves several purposes. It serves several purposes to them because the VA flies in the face that you can have universal health care that the VA, Mayo folks will tell you this, the VA is the best healthcare system in the country. It stands alongside Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and others because of the service and the specialization. But you know what it is? It does cost some money because it costs to go to war, not just to buy the bombs, the bullets, and to pay for them. The cost of war is borne out over a long period of a lifetime. So in Minnesota, and I just want to tell you just one example of what's at risk. Minnesota made a commitment when we came into office that we were going to bring functional zero are basically end veterans homelessness. So we had the research, we had the ability to do it. We had an incredible opportunity because veterans come with wraparound services, job training, health care, dental care, those types of things. Because homelessness comes in many ways, and it's closer than many of us think to a lot of folks. With that being the case, we said, why in the world, with all these resources, are we satisfied with allowing a single veteran to get out there? So we went after this. When we started this 6 years ago, we had about 1,981 kind of chronic homeless veterans in Minnesota. That number is now down to 216 veterans. And each one, the folks in St. Paul, the folks that are getting fired at the VA, they know those 216 by name. They're not a statistic. If you tell people you're going to get rid of veterans homelessness, it sounds aspirational. I think we do a poor job of this. Turn it from aspirational into operational, and we broke the state into 8 functional units. We started working all the way down. We are prepared by the end of the year to be able to declare Minnesota has become the 5th state and the largest state to have 0 on veterans homelessness. Now, back to the question. That was until last week, where the funding for that program we use has been cut by the VA to follow through. So the question now becomes the important one. We in Minnesota are going to try and make up the difference where we can to be able to fund that. Now remember, we already paid for it. We already paid for it. Your dollars already went to Washington. I would guess if I asked Minnesotans, Trump people too, people who support Donald Trump, would you like those tax dollars to come back and get rid of veterans homelessness? I think they would say yes. The problem is now, Elon Musk and them have decided that falls under Doggy or Doge or whatever the hell they talk about. That falls under that, when this gentleman is saying, I want it, and I would argue his neighbors are saying that too. So here's the deal. In Minnesota, and I will leave you with this because this is the hopefulness of this, we decided, and that's your legislators decided, we decided collectively, bipartisanly, that we would pass veterans budgets every year outside of the other budgets. Now, the way I say that is there's an art and a science to legislating. It's the give and take. It's that thing that you don't want to know how your sausages or your laws are made. But if the sausage comes out good and it's all that, that's okay. And I would say this sausage comes out good that we decided, let's don't ever pit a bill. It's really useful. You've got people who don't want to vote for anything. Oh, I'll vote for veterans, but I won't vote for school aid or whatever it might be. And you're like, God dang, how can you one or the other? And so we would say is, we'll let you vote for the veterans issue if you vote for the school aid, and then we combine them together. It's actually fairly effective, but it also pits veterans against other issues. So what we said is, let's just do the veterans issue separate from everything else, and let's fund veterans first, get that done, and then we'll move on and do the rest of it. That got a unanimous vote in the House and the Senate last year to pass that on this side. So there you go. Good question.
All right, our next question is from Matthew Pearson out of Caledonia on LGBT issues. Matthew, are you here?
Right there. We'll get you a mic. It's good to have babies in here. Let's just say that. That's it. I said, I work with legislators. I'll take this all day. All day. So, no offense to the locals. So,
my question was, what power does the state have to protect the rights of LGBTQ plus
Yeah.
people when the federal government is either actively attacking or removing protections from them?
yep. And I think in this room and in rooms like this, these are the conversations, because I'm hearing people say, look, Democrats lost because they put so much emphasis on these issues on the side and stuff. And my response to that is, I don't think human rights are an issue on the side. They're kind of fundamental. And I think they got us sucked into some of these things. And I say this because they're very, very smart about this. At the last couple weeks of the campaign, and I maybe was in the bubble, I thought we were going to win, but up in Pennsylvania, I started seeing signs on yards. And they were just like this little ones. Kamala bad, Trump good. Kamala tax, Trump money. And that's all they said. And I'm like, Jesus, are we first graders? What the hell? But it works. And then they ran an ad that says, Donald Trump is for you, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are for they, them. And it goes back again to where we started on this issue of freedom for all. It shouldn't be that difficult. But what they do is they capture us in this space, they drag us down into it, and then we end up debating something that should just be so simple. I tried to make the case on this. It wasn't a flippant throwaway line. It's how I believed and grew up. That, look, I don't have to agree with your choices, but it's not my damn business what you do at home. You watch what you want to watch. And tell people it doesn't affect. So, again, I would tell you this. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, they had a big rally. They flew in people from the outside, they being the Republican legislators. They stood on the Capitol steps and told you that a trans child playing sports is going to destroy everything you know in Minnesota. And then on Thursday night, we found out where the real danger is coming from. The call's coming from inside the house. The call's coming from inside the house. So I think we have to use the courts, the force of law. I respect people. I'm not asking people to change how they see about this, but the fact is, if you're a Minnesotan, we have to make sure you have equal justice in front of the law. And this obsession of trying to bring your personal belief in this where it doesn't impact you in any way, we have to do a better job. And I just said in Minnesota, I refuse to take the bait for them. I'm going to protect everyone's human and civil rights in this state to the best of our ability. And after we do that, we're going to balance a budget that invests in our schools, invests in public safety, invests in the environment, tries to cut taxes for the middle class, balances things out, and get to the work that's really important, because they will spend their time dividing and demonizing. And I think, to be honest with you, there's a lot of people who are squishy about this and are willing to say, look, it's a pretty small number of people. That's a dangerous road to go down, because pretty soon you're part of the group that's the pretty small number of people. That's how it takes. Just saying.
All right, our next question is from Melissa Hanson out of Rochester. Are you here, Melissa? This question is regarding Social Security.
My question is, how are we going to support people who maybe have limited mobility or means to travel to Social Security offices when they decide that you have to present yourself in person to prove who you are?
That's right. This is the teacher in me, and some of you, the old hats are around here, know. I saw Al and a few folks. Al, good to see you again. When I first ran, remember that long shot campaign to run? But I'll tell you, one of a big piece of that 2006 campaign in the 1st District was Social Security and the protection of Social Security, because it's so personal to people. And the teacher in me knows that they've grabbed the third rail, which is Social Security, and there's some things that we need to remember. First of all, shame on any one of us who ever buys their frame and calls Social Security an entitlement program. It is not. It is not. That's our money. What it is it's the single greatest anti-poverty program that's ever been developed. So it's that. Let's get that. And it's our money. And it's our money. And so I think this starts with, we already got a great start on this, the vast majority of the American public. Look, I'm going to just tell you this one. This is my thinking on this as I'm trying to figure out and soul search and get out of the wilderness, that issues like Social Security, issues like rights for all LGBTQ, issues like women's reproductive rights, issues like smart gun reforms to not kill our children, those things, all those things. Or like free breakfast and lunch in Minnesota, for example. Republicans are saying, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Republicans here in Minnesota are coming after all those things, and in D.C. Social Security. Here's what we should recognize. All those things I just listed, if you poll them amongst the general public, all of them poll above 70%. All of them poll above 70%. So I would make the case to you that we who care about this, I don't care what you want to define us, if I believe that progress is a good thing, so I'll take the progressive label because I think you're moving forward. That's a good thing. But we've won the hearts and minds, and they've seized power. And so I tell you that this is scary because it's the space we're in. They understood that they couldn't win on this issue, but they figured out they could take over, they could take the courts, or they could do whatever. And now they're doing these things that are clearly against where the general public is at, and they're doing them anyway. And I am convinced we have to use the courts. We'll do the best, and I still have a big believer that the courts will hold to the best of our ability, but I'm nervous. John Roberts coming out last week, thank God where that dude has been. So, would have been a little nicer if he said that presidents don't have full immunity, you know, whenever. That would have been nice, but I think as this happens, and they have made that case, that we are going to have to ratchet up the rhetoric around protecting these programs, making where the case is, and understanding, and I'll go back to this again, I don't run for office to get power. I run for office to govern and to get people together, to lift things up. These folks understood where that power was. I think we're going to have to get it through our heads is when we get elected office back, we're going to have to use the inherent power of the office to make sure that we shore these things up so they can never be attacked. That's what I think that hasn't happened. I said, well, what would that look like? You know, Donald Trump's on this revenge retribution tour. Well, I said, I'll be on one too. I'm going to bring revenge just raining down on their head in the form of their neighbors getting health care. That's what I'm going to do. Just coming down on them. And just, I'm hell-bent for them to make them, you know, they're gonna rue the day when we got reelected because our kids with special needs are gonna get the care that they need. And so but I say that in all seriousness, they use the power to punish. We need to use the energy that's in this room in the electoral office to just finally say, like we did in Minnesota, I am sick of waiting for this. Let's just pass this stuff. Let's just get it done. Let's just, you know, so fight it. Know it's coming. It's super popular. It depends on all of us. It's an anti-poverty program. It belongs to us. And God dang it, how in God's name can we not message all these middle-class issues against the friggin' billionaires? I mean, Bernie's, the oligarch thing is right. How did this happen that they're out there? And look, we're all for success of people. We can't be the anti-success. We can't be the anti-business. There's business owners in here. But I tell you this, going back to this idea about Social Security, some of you heard this story, and this is true. Look, I was green as anything. I came right out of that high school at Mankato Western. You elected me to be to Congress. I turned to Gwen that night and said, holy crap, what is this job? I don't even know what this job is. So we got it. But I found out very quickly when I got there, they put us in a room, they gave us a seminar, and they said, well, you're going to have to understand and work your family finances making less money than you had. And I'm looking around saying, this is 4 times more than I ever made in my life. Well, I don't know who you're talking to. But I found out something in there, and some of you, I know this sounds really stupid, but you think back to this. I'm 40 years old, been a teacher my whole life. I end up there. I did not. It got to about August of my congressional checks, and I saw all of a sudden my checks got bigger. And I said, well, what's going on with my checks or whatever? And I saw, they're not taking out Social Security. So I go check with the payroll people. I said, I think you guys made a mistake. You're not taking out Social Security. And they said, you've reached the cap. I said, what? Yeah, you only pay up to this, and then after that, you don't have to pay Social Security. I'm like, that's bullshit. Who knew that? Who knew that? Why you would not? And so I'm guessing in here, a vast majority of you pay on every single penny you make, whether you're teaching school or nursing or do whatever. That's what you do. That's what all of us do. So all of this talk about, Social Security, we might have to raise the age, we might have to cut benefits, might have to do all that. You do not. Just have everybody pay what we pay. Just pay what's on there, and it goes all the way up. Simple as that. What's good about Minnesota? The governor of Minnesota pays Social Security tax on every penny they make. That's the way it's said here, so that's good. All right. Agreed.
All right, Rachel LaForge from Rochester. Are you here?
Oh, this is going to be a good one, isn't it? No, it is. It's a good question.
Rachel, are you here? All right, I am not seeing
How
you,
many
but this-
college students here? All right.
Can I ask? I'm going to ask the question anyways.
Yeah, stand up college students. They're going to ask it for you.
All
Here
right.
it comes. Yay. Good. Our future.
So Rachel's question is, will the Department of Education cuts affect the North Star Promise?
And those of you who don't know, you guys are great. The North Star Promise says in Minnesota, and thanks to your legislators who led on this, if a family makes less than $80,000 a year, and then it kind of goes on a gradual on that, you go to any place you want to in Minnesota free to get higher education. Now, I'm glad to see the white hairs in here excited about this, because this is the one I'll go back to this idea how much harder it is to be a kid right now. It's very hard. I said two things that when I was growing up that I never had a problem with in school. I never worried about being shot dead, and I never worried about how to pay for college. Those things were taken care of. So not because my family was rich. They weren't. My dad was dead. My mom stayed at home, and she's on Social Security survivor benefits. But you could still go to college very easily because the generation that came before me invested in that. So I just want to be clear about this. Their big fight, and they messaged it really well with folks who are in trades, who are in everything, who went to college, trying to tell you, oh, this student loan forgiveness thing, that's bullshit. I worked hard. I did it myself. I did it all myself. I did. You know why you did that? You know why you did that? Because when I got out of high school, if I'd have worked a minimum wage job in the summer, I could have paid the entire bill at the University of Minnesota for a year. That's no longer true. So they paid, we all got subsidized. They paid it on the front end for us. Now you got a bunch of gray hairs acting all tough like they worked through the snow and did everything to get themselves to college. This generation got stuck with it, and not only that, they shifted it from Pell Grants and aid and cheaper prices. They shifted it over to loans, and then they did one more big shift. They shifted it out of government-guaranteed low-interest loans into the private sector to jam up the price. So the answer to the question was in Minnesota, no, it will not impact that program, but we will have to make decisions about where the money coming in. And I will tell you right now, for those of you out there who are parents like us, we don't know where to fill out the financial aid form right now. We don't know how you're going to do this. I'm still interested in the people who are smarter than me in this saying, well, I signed my contract with the Department of Education. I don't know the SBA a damn dime. I'm not paying them. I'm not encouraging you to do that. I'm encouraging to ask how they're going to do that. So in answer to this is, we believe this. We also believe the path to a good future is investing in the trades if you need it, the apprenticeship program through our labor unions, investing in those things. So the answer is yes. If you're in under North Star, you're going to get North Star. We'll stay committed to it, making sure that families are able to afford whatever path they choose for their kids. Because again, I go back to this. It is so damn short-sighted. And I'm just going to be honest about this. These people making decisions who never stepped foot in a public school, who they were so gleeful to me. Oh, Walz went to like Mankato State or whatever that is or whatever. Yeah, go Mavs. That's what most of us do, and I'm very proud of that. And I said, this idea of them demonizing, cutting, and killing public education extends into higher ed in a way that is just horrific because, again, I'm going to go back to this. I don't know how short-sighted these people can be. The ability of us, if we sell short on this, I said this as a teacher time and time and time again. I went into that classroom. Their whole thing is they were going to do performance pay, which is so goddamn insulting to me. Okay, you're going to pay a lot more money then, because I do my best I could every day. I did my best because I cared about those kids, and I wanted them to achieve their dreams. But look, I'm a bit selfish too. I wanted them to get a really good job so they could pay their taxes so I could retire and collect Social Security and do what's. That's the way it works. Sadly, if you're a small business owner here and you sell furniture, cars, whatever it is, you should be really pissed about the way we finance higher education, because we have a whole bunch of graduates that the only spending money they have goes to their student loans, and they can't buy anything else. And so we're committed.
All right, for our next question, I'm sorry, I'm going to say your name incorrectly, but Roque St. Pierce out of Rochester, are you here?
Oh, that's a good point.
Not a problem.
Good point. Now I feel bad. Thank you for that.
All right. Tori Boomgarden from Rochester, are you here?
Let's do that last one, though. What she
Okay,
had.
well-
that question was a good one.
This one? All
Yeah.
right. Tori, we'll get to you next. We're going
All
to do
right.
this one first.
Oh, you're going to get them. God, you're good at this. I'll stay in my lane. Sorry.
No. But no, we'll do it. Rogue, if you're here, this is your question. FinStat has selective hearing for his constituents. What can we do?
Now, this, you can do this. Look, I've done this job, and I said it, that I can see why they're not doing these. Because it's unpopular right now. People are fired up. It's very difficult to defend what they're doing. But that isn't all that different than the ACA. Some of you remember that. Look, I did it in front of a group like this, and those were any there? Was any of you there back in 2009 at that town hall? Okay, I see a few names. It was not this friendly. Let's just be clear. It was not this friendly, but it was really healthy, and it was really good. And people were expressing, who didn't vote for me and didn't support me, but they were asking legitimate questions, and they were expecting me to go to and tell them that on page 1162 of the healthcare law, which really surprised them because I did read it. You know, it's not like it's freaking Harry Potter or something. It was like, it wasn't like this big. It was like this. So I read the thing, and I would tell them why I voted for that way. And those of you who were at that hearing, it was a healthier time in American discourse, because there were a large number of people said, well, I hear you on that, Congressman. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but that's an interesting point on cost containment and how you're doing that. And so this idea that you're going to funnel them out, and they said it. I had people tell me this, oh, don't worry, Tim, about that town hall. That was just people they bust in, you know, from wherever. Bullshit. It was our neighbors. They were there, just like you. You're not bust in. You came from Dundas, for Christ's sakes, and, you know, things that go over. That's the way it works. And I said to close it off, I'm telling you this. When you start closing off your constituents, that's the first step. You're going to lose re-election. I am telling you, you're going to lose re-election. So, because none of these questions are personal. None of these questions are angry, and all of them are incredibly relevant to the moment that we're in. The one thing I did find, I found another one of our Minnesota members held one of these closed things, but charged for people to attend. Now that one, if you're an attorney, I think I don't think you charge people to come to that. But I would just encourage, and look, we're going to have to do this. And I'm guessing there's some people came because they disagree with me. They wanted to hear how this went. We need to have more of that. Now, I will tell you this. You know me. I'm more than willing to work with people, but I think we're in a stage right now is that, well, the governor's criticizing Elon Musk. He needs to be more bipartisan. I will never be bipartisan with like Elon Musk doing that. That's different. No, but that's not bipartisan. So that's what we can do. Look, for all of you, I tell you this from experience. I tell you this from experience because I saw it. If you're a sitting member of Congress in the biggest city in your district and you see 1,300 people on a nice Saturday coming out here, it catches your attention. Trust me, it catches your attention.
All right, everyone, this will be our last question today. So
We got popcorn coming around, so get ready. We're going to get as many of those. You could tell, fourth grade teacher. So, Julie, I learned, right? Popcorn,
All right.
Here we go.
Tori, ask your question regarding the future of the Democratic Party.
This is going to be a challenge. So, go.
I mean, I'm concerned about all the things that have been talked about today. And I just wonder how we could build a bigger tent
Yep.
for more people
Yep.
and include more people
Yep.
and get them engaged. Because there are people that are disengaged that are being affected right now. So I
Yep.
want more people involved.
Yep, great question. And look, complaining about Trump, Musk, doing all these, look, I think it's an existential threat. I've been saying this, that I think the road to authoritarianism has been littered with people telling you you're overreacting. So I don't think we're overreacting. I don't think we're overreacting. But if we're going to win electorally, you've got to have the other side of the house that what are you offering? Because it was very clear that in November they had a choice. And a large number of people, nearly 80 million, stayed home and said, what difference between those guys? They're all the same. It didn't matter. So this question about how we build this, now I think back to me. I'm trying, I don't know the answer, but I'm trying to figure this out with people. Here's what I thought. Yeah, of course, the policy thing, but I just want to say how we're not, it's not going with people who don't know all the policies, aren't spending all that time. But there was a time in America where it was simply known. Like I said this, my family wasn't particularly political. My dad was a public school administrator. My mom was stay at home. We're in a small community or whatever. And when he died, I'm 19, my little brother's in elementary school, my mom's staying at home, you know how this works. That was kind of my political awakening because there was Social Security survivor benefits. There was Pell Grants in the GI Bill. There were things that were there. So I said this, I didn't go to the Democrats. The Democrats came to me with the things that they had, like universal health care, like protections, like climate initiatives that make a difference, and a recognition like, look, you gather together with like-minded people, but we all know you don't agree on every single thing, and you need to bring people in who on those shared value pieces. And I think we get, look, I got to be the first one to tell you, I've seen this like with I've been talking about the Brits and the parliamentary system they have. It makes it much easier to do in this moment to have, somebody knows this, it makes it much easier on this to have a shadow government. Every day Trump does a press conference or Sean Duffy from Wisconsin, why are our damn planes flying out of the air? Why are people crashing all the time? The Secretary of Transportation, we should have our own Secretary of Transportation on the side of it and have them dispute this and make the press cover it. Make the press cover it. And then recognize. I'll say it here. I would have never, as a public school teacher from Mankato with no name recognition, no money, no political heritage, no name, anything like that, I wouldn't have won without the party structure. People like Lynn Wilson over here saying, I don't know who the hell you are, but I'll help you and do some things. Others who said that. Lori Selner, names you know. Those were party people. I didn't know them. So they would take me out, and Deb Hoganson would take me to Worthington, and she would say, this is Tim. He teaches geography at Mankato West. He'd like to run for Congress. And she would, that's the purpose of the party. The party's not going to be our leadership, and nobody's going to run in here, Obama-esque with charisma that's just going to win people over. But this thing, and I think and I say this as a Democratic Party, we have to understand there's power out there in other things. Indivisible folks are doing their own thing. They're building. They're doing. The Greens and all of that. I mean, people are building it. And how do we get them to see that collectively together, how do we build that together? I'm making the case on this. Look, I know it's still strained, but there was a time not that long ago, in 2008, we won this congressional district by 33 points. 33 points. We won all 22 counties. God dang, 17 years ago. 17 years ago. And I make the case that we're a little different here, and there's a heritage that's a little different. We even call ourselves a little different. It's not Democratic farmer labor just because it's fun to say that. There was a focus in this party on rural areas, on labor unions, expanding labor. And for what it's worth, I think the National Democratic Party should become the DFL. That's what I think. Or the indivisible DFL, or whatever it may be. But I think we have to view this differently, and we have to recognize, and I think, I'm going to say this, I think I think we've been so successful here. It's the reason we have the longest streak of winning statewide elections. And look, I knew it was my job to try and pick off those other swing states. And we didn't. I come back home to lick my wounds and say, God damn, at least we won here, type of thing, which is good. And that's not because of me. That's because of the organization of things that are happening, but it's in flux right now. Young people are saying, God dang, I've been part of this party for a long time. And I said this, I am proud. I took that vote on the ACA, stood in front of people here and got booed and everything. And I turned around to my people and said, oh, I'm more than happy to go home and go back to teaching because people are going to get health care. I'm fine. And that was fine. But I also thought, because we watered it down to appease the Republicans who didn't vote for it anyway, we watered the bill down. We didn't get as much as we could have, and we took a bite out of that apple that was a tiny bite instead of just eating the whole damn thing when we got there. So I think if we want to inspire people, you can't ask people to give $1 billion. No, you can't ask people to give $1 billion to a campaign. You can't ask them to knock doors, to get out on the streets. Okay, we know who the boss is. That was clear. But you can't ask them. You can't ask them to do that unless they feel personally invested in it and they're getting something back out of it in a real way. And with that, First Lady of Minnesota.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you ask people. When we ran for office, we asked for your vote. And we said, here's why we want your vote. Because we believe in equity, right? And we believe in inclusion. And we believe in fairness and opportunity and economic benefits for everyone. That's what we believe in. Join us. Join us. Come on. You bet. We ask people to join the Democratic Party. Ask them. Ask them. Tell them what you stand for and ask them. That's right. That's right. Oh, gosh. You are generous. You are generous, and we knew that about Rochester the very first time we were here, because we came here as school teachers and we said, would you join us? Because, well, there was a railroad issue, right? A train issue. Remember that one? Right? Yep. And we talked about what we valued, and we did not let issues become divisive, right? We did not let those issues be divided. We said, these are our values. And then you know what we did, and what I'm going to ask each one of you to do, and it's an answer to that very first question about your son having special needs and what can I do? We tell our story. We each tell our story about what we value and who we are, because stories are real. And every single day when you feel defeated by what is happening and is terrifying, and I know it, right? And I know that we're not going to be able to control every single positive thing that we have going in Minnesota, that we're going to feel some things. So number one, you get yourself a comfortable pair of shoes, because it's not going to be too many days and we're going to be in the streets, so you're going to need them. So have some good shoes. Have some good shoes. Every one of us together, that's the other way we're going to do it. Together, we will not throw each other or our Democratic representatives under the bus, even when we are not sure that's exactly what we would agree with. We won't, because we are a big party, we are a big tent, we are a family, and we will hang together because it's that important. It is. But we will tell our story. And each one of you needs to tell that, because that is real and that is public. And you need to tell your story to one person at least a week and bring them along with you. So when you feel defeated by that, no, you are not. You are going to tell your story, and you are going to talk to at least one person that week, because that's how we begin to make a difference. And that's an exponential change. And we ask them to join us. And we ask them based on our values, because here is what they underestimate. They think we are weak. They think we are weak. But they should never, ever mistake our kindness for weakness. I'm going to give it back to him. That's right. That is right. We tell our story and we ask them. That's right. Be kind. It's really not that hard. That's great. Yeah. Now we're going to ask you, so that we can keep the faith and understand here what it looks like, because we are fighting this fight all over, and there are good people fighting it all over, but some people don't feel like it's being fought all over. So I want to know in Teacher Talk what it looks like to see Democrats fight. What are your ideas? What do you want to see more of? What should we be doing more of? We're going to be doing popcorn here. If yeah, and if you have to go, you go. But we are going to do the popcorn, but I'm going to say this one last thing before we do this. The first congressional district, this district right here, where you all live, where we lived for a long time, this district is ours, and I want it back. So let's fight to win. It is ours. It is ours. It is yours. Let's win it back.
Yeah. Lutheran school teacher choir directors. That's what you get. So there we go.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so I really appreciated what you said about coming up with extra help when you went to college and stuff. I was a single parent when my kids were young. And I lost my job because the facility. And then I took some training at a job training center, and they said, well, it's about anything. And so I said, well, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I went to college,
Yes.
and I got Pell Grant,
Yeah.
and I had public assistance for a while, for 4 years, while I was in college. And I graduated, I got a job, I worked as a CPA for my entire career, taught some college myself, and I am so grateful that I lived in a country that cared enough about me, and my children,
Yeah.
to see us through that time.
No, it matters.
And right, 60 years later, or whatever it is, I'm still grateful. And I want to see us do the same for our young people
That's right.
and our children.
That's right. Look, we're gonna go around fast on what it looks like, but what I would say is, I think elected officials have been too damn timid to not stand up for these things, because you know what? The minute we talk about that, they scream socialism, whatever. Bullshit. It's good stuff that makes a difference. So, yeah, let's go. You got them.
Okay.
All right, Governor, as much as I know we want to stay here, we're going to have to start wrapping it up pretty soon.
All right. Just go fast on what you want to see elected
When
officials
I was
do.
young and Paul Wellstone ran, everyone said, he can't make it, he can't do it. Let's get a green bus and let's get people out there, and
Amen.
get people like me to participate.
Amen. Stay active. There's a gentleman right there.
We have one more right here down front.
We'll go
Kim,
fast.
Representative Hicks, please. Go ahead.
Hi, Governor Walz. My name is Bethany Porter, and I'm a member of the disabled community, and it's a very scary time right now for us with 17 red state attorney generals suing to take away 504 protections.
That's right.
And what I would like from you is a commitment to support the Minnesotans with Disabilities Act, introduced
Absolutely.
by our own Representative Kim Hicks, to provide 504
That's right.
For 504 protections and reasonable accommodations for disabled people here in Minnesota to strengthen that wall.
That's right. We do. Good. We got some folks. Go.
Good morning, Governor Walz. My name is Kalen Gottman. I'm a journeyman glazer with the International Union of Painters and Allied
Yeah.
Trades, DC 82, Local 1324. I am also a dues-paying member of the Southeast Minnesota chapter of Democratic Socialists of America. You were recently on Gavin Newsom's podcast, and I believe you did an outstanding job demonstrating real Midwestern progressive values. One topic that was not mentioned, however, was burner phones. Jeremy B. White from Politico reported that over the past few months, Governor Gavin Newsom has been mailing out prepaid burner phones programmed with the governor's direct number on them to tech CEOs and other California business leaders. These privately funded prepaid cell phones skirt around governmental rules such as disclosure requirements and FOIA requests. Governor Walz, do you mail burner phones to CEOs with your direct number on them? What is your plan to steer the Democratic Party away from CEOs and back towards the working class?
Yeah, that's good.
I would be apoplectic if we were to fight Trump, Musk, and the American oligarchy, only to lose again to a corporate goon like Gavin Newsom, and to quote Nancy Pelosi, the good billionaires.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. Here's my thing on that quick. No, I don't do the burner phones, but here's what I don't understand. Just give them your damn phone number. I don't understand if that's what you want to do, but here's my thing. We're going to have to figure this one out. I thought it was a flex that I was the poorest person and the only public school teacher to ever run for vice president of the United States on a major ticket. They chose the billionaire. We got to do better. We got to do better. All right, go.
All right, can we thank Governor Walz for today?
So first I want to say, as a trans person, I appreciate everything that you do to protect trans people in our community.
Absolutely.
And I would love to see, I have friends who are actually moving here from Texas as they are passing bills to not allow people to get gender-affirming care and possibly give them felonies if they are seen as trans in their place of business. I would love to see protection for those people who are needing a place to stay.
Yeah.
Especially like, these people are 20, they're my age, they're children, they're adults, they're anyone of any age who need a place to stay. So trying to protect trans people who are coming here. And also, as a part of the Minnesota Farmers Union and National Farmers Union, thank you for continuing to look out for small family farms.
Yeah. And for all of us, don't allow them to take this human rights piece and try and make this a sports, or we're interested in women's sports. They're not interested in women's sports. They never sported Title IX. They don't give a damn. But don't allow them to take this away, because here's what we know is trans children are at so much greater risk of self-harm and issues if we don't stand with them. So here we go.
I have a couple questions here. I'm a UMR student. I'm non-traditional student. I rely on Social Security. I rely on federally subsidized housing. I rely on government grants, federal Pell Grant, Minnesota Foster Independence Grant. I rely on a lot of things to not be homeless, and I'm really concerned about going homeless if the Trump administration continues to target federal funding. And I'm worried about DEI policies as UMR is backing away from DEI, and the culture
Minnesota
at our
is
school
not.
is changing.
We are not backing away. We are not.
I appreciate hearing that. I just want to feel like I don't want the government to turn its back on me, and it really feels that way. So please just remember my story when you fight.
Thank you. For all of us. Rochester, thank you all. You got them. We're grateful. Thank you to the Democratic Party. Grateful. Oh, yeah, we'll get him up here. Thanks, everybody. That was great.